The Hall of Concord had been designed to intimidate. Its ceiling stretched so high it vanished into artificial nebulae, swirling clouds of light and color projected to remind every delegate that the Galactic Council ruled not just planets, but stars themselves. Pillars carved from the remains of extinct worlds line the chamber, each etched with the victories of ancient empires. Every species seated there had, at some point in its history, bowed to the Council, or been broken by it. On this day, however, all eyes were fixed on a single, unremarkable figure. She sat alone at the end of the circular assembly, her chair smaller than the rest, her species younger than any present. Admiral Mara Ellison, representative of the Terran Union, wore a simple black uniform devoid of ornament. No shimmering crests, no floating sigils of authority, just cloth, metal, and a small blue and green emblem pinned over her heart. Earth. The murmurs began long before the session was called to order. Too quiet, hissed the Varelian speaker, mandibles clicking in irritation. They should be begging by now. Or threatening, replied a crystalline being from the Kasari Combine. That is what primitives do when cornered. Mara heard none of it, or pretended not to. Her hands rested calmly on the table. Her eyes, dark and steady, watched the chamber with the patience of someone who had already seen the outcome. At the center dais, High Chancellor Threxer rose. The towering reptilian scales shimmered crimson, a color reserved for moments of historic consequence. This emergency convocation of the Galactic Council is now in session, he announced, his voice amplified through translators and psychic relays alike. Item 1. The matter of humanity. The chamber stilled. Threxer continued. For decades, the Terran Union has expanded beyond its assigned systems. You have ignored council sanctions, rejected trade restrictions, and, most troubling, interfered in conflicts deemed educational. A ripple of agreement passed through the delegates. Several species had learned the hard way that council wars were meant to teach obedience. Humanity, infuriatingly, had intervened, evacuating populations, dismantling blockades, even toppling a client regime or two. Mara inclined her head slightly. We don't believe in letting children burn so empires can make a point. A hiss of outrage echoed through the chamber. Threxer's eyes narrowed. Your beliefs are irrelevant. The council has reached a unanimous decision. Behind him, a holographic sigil ignited, the ancient mark of total war. Effective immediately, the Chancellor declared, the Galactic Council recognizes the Terran Union as a hostile entity. War is declared on humanity. Silence followed. Not shock. Not gasps. Silence. All eyes returned to the human admiral. Mara leaned back in her chair and smiled. At last, she said softly. The effect was immediate and profound. Several delegates recoiled. Others froze, their sensory appendages flushing in fear. The Kasari representative's crystalline lattice flickered erratically, a sign of extreme distress. You anticipated this? Threxer demanded. We hoped for it, Mara replied honestly. That was when the Council made its first mistake. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as an underdog. Their ships were boxy, inelegant things compared to the flowing biovessels and energy constructs of older species. Their weapons relied on kinetics and brute force rather than refined particle manipulation. They were loud, inefficient, and, worst of all, unpredictable. So the Council had treated them like a curiosity. When humanity refused to pay tribute, the Council assumed fear would come later. When humans ignored sanctions, they predicted eventual collapse. When Terran fleets began escorting refugee convoys through restricted war zones, the Council told itself it was temporary defiance. What they never understood was that humanity had been studying them from the beginning. While Council fleets relied on centralized command and ritualized doctrines, humans practiced decentralized warfare. While alien strategists prepared for short, decisive engagements meant to cow enemies into submission, human tacticians trained for wars that lasted generations. Because on Earth, war was never theoretical. Mara Ellison remembered her academy days vividly, not simulations of glorious conquest, but case studies of stalemates, insurgencies, and collapses. Humanity didn't ask, how do we win fast? They asked, how do we endure longer than anyone else? So when the Council declared war, it wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation. The first shots were fired at the Kairos Gate, a massive hyperspace nexus linking 12 core systems. Council fleets arrived in textbook formation, overwhelming force, flawless symmetry, banners blazing. They expected resistance. What they found was emptiness. Then the gate detonated. Human saboteurs had dismantled its stabilization fields months earlier, replacing them with mass shadow traps of Terran design. When the Council Armada arrived, hyperspace folded in on itself. Ships collided, reactors breached, and thousands of vessels were torn apart before they could even raise shields. Across Council space, similar disasters unfolded. Supply depots vanished in silent nuclear flashes. Communications arrays went dark. Client species, long resentful of Council dominance, rose in rebellion, armed with human weapons and trained by human advisors who vanished as quickly as they appeared. The Council had prepared for conquest. Humanity had prepared for collapse. Admiral Ellison oversaw it all from the bridge of the TUS Resolute, watching data streams pour in from 100 fronts. Her officers worked calmly, efficiently, as if this were merely another exercise. Council Fleet Delta is retreating, reported Commander Hayes. They've lost 40% combat effectiveness. Let them go, Mara said. Fear spreads faster than wreckage. Still, victory did not come cheaply. Council forces adapted. Entire human colonies were glassed. Civilian transports were targeted. Worlds burned. Humanity bled. And humanity endured. For every planet lost, 3 Council allies defected. For every fleet destroyed, human shipyards, modular, mobile, and hidden, produced 10 more. Terran engineers turned scarcity into innovation, developing weapons that ignored traditional shields, AI tactics that exploited Council rigidity, and psychological operations that shattered morale. The galaxy began to whisper a new truth. The Council had awakened something it could not control. 2 years into the war, the Hall of Concord stood half empty. Many seats were abandoned, some species extinct, others in hiding, others openly allied with humanity now. The ancient banners had been torn down, their victories rendered meaningless. High Chancellor Threxer stood once more at the center dais, his scales dull, his posture diminished. Across from him sat Admiral Mara Ellison.